In this video, I'm going to talk to you about parallel and perpendicular lines, and I just want to cover a couple vocab words before we begin. And it would be first that parallel lines have the same slope, meaning the slope, whatever that number is or the fraction, it would be identical. Exactly the same slope. And then perpendicular lines have slopes that are called opposite reciprocal slopes. And I want to give you an example of what opposite reciprocal would mean. It means that your fraction would be flipped upside down and opposite sign. So one of them would be a positive slope and the other has to be a negative slope. So you have to have flipped fractions and opposite signs. And then last, I have this last bullet point here that says, to decide if lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, you should write both equations in slope-intercept form to then compare the slope. So you want to get it in a form that shows the slope. Another form would be point slope form. That would work as well because you can clearly identify slope. But standard form would not work for this because standard form does not show you slope at all in the equation. That form is useful for mostly only x and y intercepts. So here it says find the slope of a line that would be parallel to the given line and then the slope that would be perpendicular to the given line. So it says the line that we have here, and what you need to do is identify the slope in your equation. So slope-intercept form, I can identify parallel slope very easily because it will be identical to what you see. But perpendicular slope needs to have the opposite sign. So in this case, it needs to be negative, and then the fraction needs to be flipped upside down, so the reciprocal would be 3/2. So that would be a slope that would be perpendicular to 2/3. Now in this equation, you do not see the slope, and so we have to do a little bit of thinking. I had this phrase in some previous videos, and it was called HOY VUX. HOY stands for horizontal lines, have zero slope, and their function is a y equal to a number. And then vertical lines have undefined slope, and their equations are x equal to a number. And as I'm looking at this function here, I know I have a horizontal line. And in a horizontal line, I have zero slope. Notice how there is no x term here, so you think y equals mx plus b. Your mx term is missing, which is why you have zero slope, because there's zero x's in there. And then perpendicular slope would be undefined slope. So any vertical line would pass through this line, and those lines would be perpendicular and make 90 degrees. My next equation here is y equal to a half x. Negative a half, and so I can identify that slope real clearly, and I'll just copy it down exactly for my parallel line. And then perpendicular should be opposite sign, so positive slope. And then if I flip my fraction upside down, 2/1 would simplify to be just 2. Now in the last example over here, what we need to do is solve for slope-intercept form. So I can't leave it in this form because I can't identify my slope yet. And so off to this side over here, I'm going to do my work to solve for y. So I'm going to start by adding 3x to both sides of my equal sign. And then I'll have negative 5y is equal to a 3x, my mx term, plus b, or 45. And now I need to divide by negative 5. And the key is to really, all you need is to identify the slope fraction. So the parallel slope will be identical to what you have, which would be negative 3/5. Parallel is going to be opposite sign, so positive, and flip your fraction upside down. The reciprocal would be 5/3.